This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network, an extension of the Archie Bray Foundation for the Ceramic Arts. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.
Potters, are you looking for high-quality equipment and supplies? Since 1974, Bailey Pottery Equipment, based in Kingston, New York, has produced equipment used in schools, universities, and art centers nationwide. Their gas kilns, renowned for ease of use, fuel efficiency, and beautiful results, are a global favorite. Bailey Pottery Equipment caters to all skill levels, offering a range of equipment and top brand ceramic supplies at discounted prices, all backed by their outstanding personal service. Visit BaileyPottery.com, the professional's choice for all things clay.
Hello, my name is Kathy King, and welcome to the Flux Sake Podcast. I'm coming to you from the Harvard Ceramics program in our fair city, Allston, Massachusetts. I'm here with Rose and Matt Katz of the world-famous Ceramic Materials Workshop, and they are ready to answer your burning questions about clay and glaze. Hello, Matt and Rose.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
How are you two doing today?
Busy. Very busy.
Our kids have now entered the age where they have nonstop activities all the time.
Yes.
I can't imagine.
Not to mention the whole launch of the YouTube channel for us, too.
My goodness.
That's keeping busy.
So that's been fun to start watching. So what brought you to this place? Why did you want to launch this?
Years of building a set.
Literally.
We have to use it eventually.
Like you're building a fort or something.
Yes, we have a lit, like acoustically sound set that's my fort for videos.
Yeah, it was something we've always, we think about how people really learn in ceramics. And that's part of why we do the podcast. And and we really were thinking about sort of how to best get people excited about glazes and materials. And we do a podcast, we do a lot of video stuff with our online teaching. And we really thought that YouTube was sort of the next thing. And as Rose said, it's only taken a couple of years, I think.
Only a few years.
Maybe two years of building and learning how to do lighting and
camera equipment and rearranging.
Wow. And is this mainly you, Rose, that is on camera? Because that would make total sense to me.
I was going to say, I'm the one on camera for the YouTube series. Matt does it for the classes, but I'm on YouTube. So it's a matter of getting my acting down and making sure I'm presenting things. And it's exhausting.
Not mumbling.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of seeing which necklace you wear on each episode.
Oh yes, aren't those fun?
Jewelry.
I love them. Yeah, I never wear them in public though. It's like I love collecting these crazy things, and I don't wear them. I don't know why.
That's crazy. No, people are going to be writing in asking you, like me, well, where'd you get that? That's so cute.
Yeah, I know. It's called Etsy, or I know somebody.
I was going to say, I think every family member has given you every crazy piece of jewelry that they have hiding.
Yes, actually, it's pretty cool. I got some sentimental ones from grandparents, and others were made by family members. And
we've gotten some from students. We've gotten some from Porcelain and Stone. Kimberly Hustis makes some amazing ceramic jewelry.
Yeah, and the earrings. I got some earrings from her. And it's pretty fabulous. It's a fun thing to do. It's like, oh, which necklace am I gonna wear today?
And so how do you two come up with what episodes are going to be or what subject matter is going to be highlighted?
A lot of it is really trying to give people some introductions for things that they may not know. Like our first video is literally how to batch a glaze test, because a lot of people, they're coming from a commercial glaze, they have glazes in the studio, but they've never made up a glaze test. So we did that one.
We're doing one viscosity. We have one coming up.
We do
glow in the dark
absorption.
Glazes.
Well, that's the big one everyone's waiting for. Is that's been a project 20 years in the coming, where we have we first saw it years ago of glow in the dark glazes, and people have always asked us how, and we cracked it, and it's not a thing that would fit into our normal classes, and we're like, oh well, we'll put this out on YouTube. So you got to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see glow in the dark glazes, because it's a thing. They're real.
That is so exciting. And it's kind of a great entryway. I mean, beyond listening to this podcast, and some people
Of
are going to
course.
be like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, and maybe, not quite ready to, or not feeling they're ready to take the whole class, but then being able to get some introduction to this world. I can imagine this is a good entryway drug.
Yeah.
Entryway YouTube.
And you get to spend time with Rose.
Yay. Anyway, to get Rose on camera. I love it.
But everybody check out the YouTube channel, subscribe, like all the things the YouTubers say. We're not cool enough to know all that, but it's really great. So everyone should check it out for sure.
You can watch me stumble over subscribe.
Subscribe. That's hard. It is hard. Subscribe. Try saying that 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
We'll just go back to test. So what is the name of the channel?
It's just Ceramic Materials Workshop.
All right. Google Ceramic Materials Workshop on YouTube, and you'll be right there ready to subscribe. So, all right, you two, let's get to work here. We got questions piling up on top of questions. So our first question today comes from Tiffany from Kentucky, and she has a question that kind of merges the hair salon with the ceramics lab.
Ooh.
Hey everyone, it's Tiffany from Kentucky. I'm a hairstylist by day and a potter by night, and my question has to do with hair color and ceramics. We use plastic bowls in the shop instead of metal because hair color can react with different metals. So I was wondering, because I've noticed a lot of other stylists have been using ceramic bowls lately, and the pros to that are they're less flimsy and they're more sturdy on your station, so you're less likely to knock them off because they're a little heavier. And also bigger, so they can hold more color, which is great. But my question was, is there any downsides to that? Are there any chemicals in certain glazes or clays that could react with hair color? I know this is really random, but it's just something I've been wondering about, and I'd love to see your opinion. Thank you.
If there is one thing we love, that's random questions. This is great. This is great.
Yes.
I'm assuming we need to know what is in hair color.
Yeah, I really don't know what's in hair color.
I mean, I have to make one assumption, and I'm just going to go straight to bleach. And I know that that's not the real chemistry of what hair coloring is, but I know a lot of permanent hair colors involve stripping away, the color in your hair. And I believe that what is used is a derivative of bleach. I know that they call it bleaching your hair, and that would be a highly alkaline material.
I looked it up real quick, Matt, and so it's ammonia, alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, and pigments.
Oh. Yeah, and so that all goes in line with, again, it being alkaline. So on the pH scale, right, we've got acidic, and everybody can reference that as, lemon juice or vinegar, and that's a low pH, so under 7. Water is 7, so water's right in the middle. And then alkaline materials are higher pHs, so 7 to 14 or up. And so these are very, very alkaline, and that is definitely a challenge for any material. I'm not shocked that they don't use metal, because, the thing about metal, and the reason why we're all here together in ceramics, is because, all of these different materials have different applications. And metals are specifically very limited, because we all think of metal as being durable, But metal exists because certain types of atoms can participate in what they call metallic bonding, which is instead of, say, an iron molecule bonding to an oxygen molecule, it bonds to another iron molecule. And that's metallic bonding, when an iron can bond to an iron, can bond to an iron, or a copper can bond to a copper, can bond to a copper. And that is a very unstable form of atomic bonding. Okay, so what happens is those materials very easily oxidize, or what we call rust, right? And that's when iron turns to iron oxide. And so that's just not stable. And we've made modern versions of metal like stainless steel, which are more durable, but they're not perfect. They're never going to be perfect, but ceramics are non-reactive. And so that becomes the bigger deal. And I've colored my hair a few times back in the day, and like that stuff burns.
But I imagine, like, so she's asking if there's any chance of some interactions. And I mean, yes, there could be. Depends on where they're getting their bowls from. Like, is it a large manufacturer? Or is it, somebody, I just made this in my basement and I fired it to like 04 and it should just be fine,
I
got a
think
raw
Tiffany's real
edge.
question is, can she make her own bowls
Mm.
and bring them to everyone in the salon?
Yeah, I think of something like being used as, kind of a base, like almost like a mortar and pestle type of ceramic, just a basic white or clear glaze, and something heavy, that, as she said, apparently they're flying all over the hair salon, these bowls of chemicals. Yeah, I wonder if does it matter what glaze it is? If you had a copper glaze that just by happenstance was under fire, would that,
Right.
be trouble?
I mean, it has to do with the glaze you're using, and if it's fired well.
I would now. Okay, so is it an inherently good idea? Yes, it is a fine idea to use a ceramic bowl, because ceramic should be pretty impenetrable. That's the difference between a ceramic versus a metallic, is that if properly made, the ceramic bowl doesn't oxidize. In fact, the materials in the glaze are already oxidized. It's silicon dioxide and sodium oxide, and so all these things are already oxidized. So that's partially why ceramics are so stable. Yeah, as discussed, the real problem is the glaze as stable as possible, and that can be iffy. If well made, glazes and glasses should be as tough as possible. When you buy chemicals from like a chemical supply company for like lab chemistry, almost all of the liquids will come in a glass bottle, because the glass is resistant to the acids and the bases that you're buying. Now, there are definitely exceptions, but there are things that people don't normally use. Like hydrofluoric acid will actually eat away at glass. Those of you who have seen Breaking Bad, that show, in the very first episode, I think it's the first episode, I won't get into the details, but like that's them putting hydrofluoric acid on a glazed tub and it eats away at the tub. But regular acids and bases are perfectly well kept in a glass bottle, and glazes are just glass. I think the real notion, though, is I would make sure it is a clear or white glaze. If you're using a glaze that's got copper in it and it's got cobalt in it and it's not stable, if for some reason, I'm not saying that those glazes are not, but the world is an imperfect place. Like if they are not stable, I don't know what getting copper in a hair coloring is going to do. Like that could be really bad, and your client could end up with flaming turquoise hair.
They might want that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
It might be a feature, not a bug at that point.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, you don't want crazing, because you don't want that
Right.
to get into the cracks and then contaminate your next batch that you're using. That's another
Absolutely.
concern. And you probably don't want any raw clay touching those hair chemicals too, because you don't know if the clay can absorb anything, and then you're in trouble. So
Yeah. But if you have an uncolored, solid ceramic bowl, vitrified clay, if you are making it yourself, and I mean fully vitrified, 0.5% absorption or less, I don't see any problem with that. If it's well fired, well made, without anything to really get in the way, absolutely that is a good thing to do. There should be no problem with that. It's stable, it's reusable. Those plastics, I'm sure, get eaten away by the hair coloring product. And yeah, those bowls will last until you drop one and break it, which is the the classic thing with all of our pots.
That's our problem.
Yeah.
Love it until it dies.
Well, all right. Well, so it looks like she's on the right path and just playing it safe. But it's going to be all the thing at in studios is creating hair
rage.
salon paraphernalia. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Tiffany, for that. And so our next question comes from Emily, and Emily is from Parts Unknown, but wrote in and asked, lately, there's been a big push to be more eco-conscious at my studio. We fire primarily to cone 10 in a large gas kiln. We bisque in a large gas kiln. Plus, we have a well-used soda kiln. Ooh, that sounds familiar. To be greener, some folks are suggesting switching to cone 6 and requiring classes to use studio reclaim instead of fresh clay. Now, I have my own thoughts on these ideas, but I want to know yours. What are some realistic ways a large community studio like ours can become more sustainable? I got some thoughts. I
was going to say this is a Kathy facts question versus Matt's opinions.
Well, the whole cone 10 versus cone 6, as that's going to be that impactful. I've never seen the statistics of what that would be. It doesn't seem to be that big of a difference in terms of the use of gas, but I could be wrong, and I would be interested in that. So I know the amount of time and energy that would be put into redoing all our glazes that we've done years of testing on that fit our clay bodies that we get. I mean, that would be a whole operational nutso moment. So
that's a systemic change. That's
yes,
a huge
absolutely
systemic change.
So for a studio our size, that would be problematic. Now, I know that studios in our town in Boston, a great studio called Mudflat. They got solar panels, so now they're in the middle of the city, and now they're able to offset their electrical costs from the electric kilns, which is really great and something I would like to do. Beyond the kilns, though, the thing that really caught me was to use studio reclaim instead of fresh clay. Oh, hell yeah. So what we did after, the changes that occurred this past year, and I've said this before, I went to every class last semester and I showed them how the cost of glazes has almost doubled. The clay has gone up considerably in price, some more than others. We have always been the type of studio where the clay that goes out to the studio floor is reclaimed. We used to just empty the bags that we got from our mixing supplier in Western Mass. We no longer do that. And we used to let anybody go into the clay cage to get, they didn't like how the clay in the barrels felt. So they wanted to get a fresh bag. Well, now I've got like 16 locks on the clay cage, and even our resident artists are only allowed to take 5 bags out of the cage. So we're really trying to get people to, use what's there, use what we've been able to, with great effort, take from slurry barrels, to be able to put it through a screening system to get out any lumps and bumps and pin tools, and then drying out that clay to the point that we can put it through the pug mill again, not needing any additional materials added in, just getting the clay back into a consistency that we can de-air it and have beautiful logs of clay. And honestly, I think our reclaim sometimes is better than what we get from the supplier in terms of consistency. It often is because the staff know what the people are crying for, So
yeah, and you can adjust granted, it's not necessarily your water content, but you can adjust how hard it is, how soft it is. Like, you have so much more control over reclaim than you think. But
reclaim also has one major advantage, which is, I'll say it that the way art clay is made in the US is different than all other clay production in the world. All other clay production, when they are making industrial clay, they do what's called filter pressing, where they mix the clay as a slurry, as a liquid. Then they use this piece of equipment called a filter press, which extracts the excess water, and then that's how they get plastic clay. What that means is that the clay is perfectly mixed. There's no spot where you get a chunk of feldspar or a ribbon of anything, because when you mix it as a liquid, you can literally move all the particles. In America, art clay is mixed as a dough, where it looks like bread dough, and that's why you get chunks and inconsistency. And they do it because it's fast and it's cheap, but it's also wrong. And there's a reason why all the industrial manufacturing uses filter press clay. The thing about reclaim is it's often the first time where that original clay gets broken down into a slurry and can get remixed and get really well homogenized.
So yes, Emily, absolutely use reclaim. Has to change to cone 6. I mean, that brings up a ton of problems, not to mention headaches, not to mention cost. And I mean, if you're, I don't think that's a great idea, but.
I mean, there are studios in the area that do it. I mean, there's studios in Boston that have done this already and switched to 6. I just don't know what the big cost difference is, because they were small enough and open, hadn't been open that long, so they were able to hit the ground running. It's just one of those things when you're talking about fuel use and staff time and just the long amount of time it takes to fire a kiln. It's so hard to figure out which one is better or more sustainable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I think that the worst headache goes back to what you already said, Kathy, which is the logistics of finding a whole new palette of recipes. Like, could you go and convert all your recipes to cone 10? Yeah, that would take Rose and I probably a month of solid work of us doing it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's us, and we're good and we're fast.
We do it all the time.
For all y'all in your studio, that's a year-long, maybe multi-year-long process. Or like just the assumption, like you're just going to go pull 20 recipes from a book or from Glazy. Good luck to you, because everyone in your studio is going to have to learn those glazes. You're going to have to learn how to batch them and work with them and all that kind of stuff.
Well, not to mention if they fit your clay body, if they dunt, if they shiver, if they craze, like there's a lots of variables there that can get you in the weeds.
Yeah, especially when you're throwing reduction atmosphere in the mix, then it gets really
exactly.
But can I get even worse? Y'all ready? Because I got some numbers I can throw at you. I got some science I can throw at you on this. Yeah, everybody thinks that cone 6 is more environmentally friendly. Nope, it's not. It's just not, everybody. Are you inherently using less energy? Yes, but we've actually tracked these things. We have energy monitors in our studio, and we did a series of tests where we fired our kilns to cone 6 and cone 10, and we tracked how much energy that they used. Cone 10 is 5% higher energy, or 5% higher of a temperature than cone 6, and our cone 10 firings use 7% more energy to get there. And that's just a fact. So it barely uses more energy. You always hear people like, oh, it uses exponentially more energy to get to cone 10. It absolutely does not. Now, there is a problem that a lot of kilns are underbuilt, and those kilns don't retain energy as well. So yes, those are more environmentally wasteful. But if you have kilns that are designed to go to cone 10, the energy difference is negligible. Okay, that's the first biggest problem. Any idea that cone 6 inherently saves you energy is only based on the fact that it's a lower temperature, so you use less energy to go to a lower temperature, but the savings are.
So fix those holes in your kiln first before you decide to change your temperature.
Absolutely. That's just part one. Part two really comes down to that. The thing that most people don't consider when talking about a cone 6 conversion is gross energy consumption. Because to get to cone 6, you have to add in another material. You see, the reason why cone 10 is that it is the lowest possible temperature you can make the simplest durable glazes. And what I mean by that is you only need 4 baseline ingredients to make a glaze of cone 10. You need an alkali metal, which comes from your feldspar. You need an alkaline earth, which is something like whiting. You need kaolin, which brings in alumina to your glaze, and you need silica. Those 4 ingredients will make you a stable glaze at cone 10, but really not much lower than that. If you want to get to cone 6, you're going to have to bring in another material. Generally, that's going to be boron or zinc for something like a Bristol glaze reaction. Well, now you've got 5 base ingredients that you need. And no one really ever thinks about that's a whole other mining infrastructure. That's a whole other shipping infrastructure that is going to now have a gross impact on your environmental footprint. Everybody gets so concerned about, oh, my kiln. If your concern is your kiln, honestly, you shouldn't be in ceramics. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, let's be clear. You want to be environmentally friendly? First step, don't be in ceramics. We are energy narcissists. To just fire these kilns is using a ton of energy so we can make things that we enjoy. Fine, I'm not going to critique it, but we have to be realistic about it. That's what it is. But to be environmentally conscious about that, we need to think about our total footprint. Okay, we need to think about how much work you lose because you have a problem with your cone 6 firings, or your clay bodies are under fired at cone 6 and under vitrified. We need to think about the long-term durability of the work and how much waste is going on when, pots are breaking or we're having problems because of this, that, or the other. We need to think about how many minerals we have to buy, because that's shipping, and that's a huge one. Our materials are cheap, but we're paying for shipping to get them all around the country, all around the world. Like, these are very real questions. And I would rather people work at cone 10, fire a little bit hotter, but be conscientious about what they're doing. But to think that cone 6 is going to be this panacea to make everybody feel better, like, no. That is unrealistic. And I don't see any benefit when you're just talking about slightly more energy usage versus slightly less energy usage when you have a greater impact to think about.
Well, you told us. All right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Kathy looks like she's either agrees or is going to fight. I can't
tell. Oh my goodness. Wow, that took a lot out of us. My goodness gracious.
Yeah. Tangents do, huh?
It does. And I mean, I really like that we're all, concerned about it. And it's really those little things that you can do in terms of, not only with the length of kiln times, but thinking about staff and studios. I mean, I'm talking at the community studios, it's really, who do you have? Where do you want people to put their time? Recycling clay or firing a kiln a couple of hours, shorter. It's, you got to balance all that out. Anyway, y'all, we ate up all our time. My goodness.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Good job, Matt.
And all the air in the room. Yeah. Well, Matt and Rose, until we meet again.
That was a good one. Good questions,
that was a lot
everyone.
of fun. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Rose.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, folks, that's it for this week's episode of For Flux Sake. I'd like to thank the listeners who submitted questions this week. And if you want your question answered on the show, shoot us an email at ForFluxSakePodcast@gmail.com. So join us next time. And when in your studio, remember what Rose always says.
Always remember to test, test, test. This is a test of the emergency glaze system. Beep.